Welcome to Laser Reviews. Today we're gonna talk about the last film in the Terminator franchise, at least by the time I'm recording this, Terminator Dark Fate from 2019. I've already covered all the other Terminator films in the franchise, and before going into this, I'd actually heard quite good things about it, that people are more receptive towards this than most of the other sequels, which might be surprising considering it's directed by Tim Miller, and it's written by the guy who gave us Blade Trinity and Man of Steel. So not exactly the best track record. So how did it turn out? Well, in this video, I will give you a plot synopsis that's going to be very bare bone. And then I'll be talking about the characters where I'll have to spoil a little, just because some of the characters you're going to really talk about without spoiling it. And then I'll talk about the cinematography, primarily the special effects. And then I'll move into heavier spoiler territory, just because the film has quite a few plot holes. And it's very difficult to really talk about this movie without talking about these plot holes. And then, when I'm on that note, I'll quickly compare the film to Terminator 2 Judgment Day, just because you can't really escape the comparisons, and I'll give you a good reason why I have to bring it up. And then there will of course be the discussion and conclusion that you can skip to in case you want to skip the spoiler section. There will be timestamps in the video, so you can skip to whatever you want to watch. So how does the movie begin? It does this interesting thing where it opens up in the future and in the past at the same time, which is unusual for Terminator. Usually it's one or the other, but we see the future that was avoided at this beach in Guatemala, where Skynet units emerge from the water in some weird D-Day-ish scene. But it's juxtaposed to what the beach actually looks like in the mid-90s, because the future war was avoided. Sarah Connor and John Connor are hanging out in Guatemala, and the T-800, Arnold Schwarzenegger, shows up, shoots John Connor dead, and leaves. Maybe he'll be back. Sarah Connor is left alive for some reason, and that's how the movie opens up. I should also mention that all of this is of course done with deep fake, but we'll talk about that when we talk about the special effects. We'll not see Linda Hamilton for another almost 40 minutes, but she's in the movie. Remember, she's gonna be in the movie, which is important because I want to see my Linda Hamilton. The film then jumps to present day Mexico, so 2019 Mexico, where we see a Terminator unit teleport in from the future in the typical teleportation scene, which looks shitty, but I'll talk about that when we talk about the special effects. And we have our first lead, Mackenzie Davis, teleport in. Well, what is she? Is she a robot? Is she a Terminator? What is she? Is she a human? We see her right away that actually she has this robot eye, so she can calculate movements because the Mexican police shows up and wants to arrest her because she's naked and they think she's on drugs. And she beats the living hell out of them. So right away you might think she's a robot, but she's not. Then we jump to another place in Mexico City where our other lead, Natalia Reese, is with a brother, with a father. They have a really good dynamic. The mother is out of the picture, I don't know why. And there seems a really strong bond going on. For some reason, I don't think it's ever explained, she speaks English while the rest of her family speaks Spanish. Did I say the writer was the guy who made Man of Steel? And Blade Trinity? So she leaves for work with her brother. They work at the same place, very convenient. And then right in that courtyard, another thing teleports in from the future. This time it's Gabriel Luna, who also shows up naked. But interestingly, and this is where we already realized there's a different dynamic, whereas Mackenzie had to physically undress a guy and take on his clothes, this guy, the Rev 9, can morph into the clothes. He's the antagonist. You will not know it right away, but you'll know it 20 minutes into the movie, so I can spoil it here. And he's this new model that is quite interesting. I would say the antagonist for this film is definitely better than any other antagonist since Terminator 2. He can use this weird metallic goo to create like these exostructures on himself and other things, and he has tentacle sword arms, and he's kind of cool. I really like what they did with the villain here, at least conceptually. It's conceptually very cool. So speeding things up, he's out to hunt down Reese. He finds her father, kills him, and uses his exterior as a disguise, shows up at her workplace, tries to kill her, but Mackenzie Davis shows up just in time to kick his ass, and we learn that she's the good robot and he's the bad robot. Only she's not a robot, she's an augmented human. And most of her body has been transformed into this fighting machine, so she can put up a really tough fight against the robots, but she can only do that for a few minutes. It's an interesting dynamic that really heightens the stakes and means that there's a huge urgency to every single action scene, that she has to save people and fight off the antagonist before exhausting herself, before extending herself too much. And then also the need to find the medicaments that she needs to sustain herself. I really like this aspect to how her character is written. It really adds a good dynamic to the film. So this leads to a very first chase scene, and at the end of that scene, Sarah Connor shows up to save the day. And they very quickly end up in this motel room where Mackenzie Davis is given a chance to recuperate. And this is also to the part of the film where we get a lot of the exposition dumps, although we don't really get too much of it, which might be a good thing, might not be. Let's talk about that later. And we learn that Sarah Connor has spent her time since losing John Connor tracking down Terminator units being teleported into the present because she's giving these coordinates, so she shows up and destroys them. So that's how she's been living her life. She's an alcoholic on the run from the authorities. She's wanted in all US states. Her life is now just tracking down these robots and destroying them. And the way she tracks down these robots is that she's given these coordinates from an undisclosed source. And it just so happens that these coordinates can be deciphered by Mackenzie Davis because of her augmentations, and they correspond with geolocation coordinates that are tattooed on her body. These coordinates lead them to Texas. So they had to get their asses from Mexico into Texas by crossing the US border illegally. So the rest of the film is basically one big chase road action film. Of course, there's also those coordinates they'll show up at. I'll talk a bit about it in the character section, because actually a problem with this film is how easy it is to foresee everything. It's so predictable. I don't mean this in a negative way, but it does add to the predictability of the plot. It's a girl boss movie. So there are some things that are mentioned early in the film where you know exactly where the film is gonna take this. It does give you actually reasons why it's not mentioned earlier, so I'll not bring it up as plot holes, but the film tries to subvert your expectations by doing these gotchas. But the second you realize it's a girl boss movie, everything is so predictable about it. It's really sad because I don't think there's anything negative about it. I think all the female leads are all good. The plot doesn't suffer from it at all, except for being very foreseeable. Now, is it more foreseeable than the other Terminator movies? Not really. But this time at least it's foreseeable for the wrong reasons maybe, that is just so by the numbers. This movie could have been less predictable, and a part of it is just that they took this concept and just did the most rudimentary understanding of it, probably because they're guys trying to create a girl boss movie and they don't really know what they're doing. Be that as it may, I will not really comment on the girl boss aspects from now on, because it's not really relevant aside from how predictable the film is. Well, it's also a bit relevant for some of the commentary you get in the film, but I didn't mind that. I thought, yeah, they're cheesy. It's really feminism 101. It was a bit silly, but it's sort of in the good way. Now I just really want to talk about the writing, but let's talk about the writing about the characters then, because there's some things I really want to mention about the film, but let's talk about the characters first, because unlike the other movies, there's really not much to say about the characters. Mackenzie Davis, her performance is fine. She's playing this bit confused, very powerful, augmented human who's dealing with a lot of things. She's essentially sent back. She's playing it a bit like Kyle Reese would, only that she's augmented and has all these medical issues as a side effect of that. Her character, for that reason, is more intricate than Kyle Reese, and there are some good dynamics with it, but bottom line is she's a bit of a confused character who was sent back with one purpose and one purpose only, and that is to protect Reese. Again, like all of the other movies that has this time traveling aspect. So her character becomes extremely one-dimensional. We do see her childhood in the future, and I'll talk a bit about the future war when we talk about the plot holes. But yeah, we see a bit of that there, but that's it. There's so little character building in this film that I can't say anything else about her. So what about Natalia Reese? Well, she's this film's Sarah Connor, in the sense that she's the one who has to survive so that the resistance can win in the future. So she goes from being this very innocent little girl or little woman, quite like Linda Hamilton in the first Terminator movie, to growing with her task, growing with her sense of duty, becoming a cool to the force, wearing leather, and just being really cool about the future. Pretty much the exact same character arc as Linda Hamilton in the first film, only it's not really executed that well. I was never immersed in her characters. So although actually her character on paper is quite deep, that she has to grow with the role, it doesn't really come across in the film. You're never really fully immersed in her characters. She's not really given enough screen presence. And some of the ways she grows is just too easy. Like, she's very quick to just fire. She's very quick to jump to action in ways where it might make sense, but I'm not sure it really worked that well. And there's a really weird scene where she's shooting a pistol at a long distance, and it seems like she's hitting the target. Then we have a scene later in the film where she's practicing shooting a pistol and can't hit the targets, and then Linda Hamilton gives her a shotgun to shoot, and we learn that the only thing you need to do to actually be a marksman, a sharpshooter, is be really, really angry. So Linda Hamilton, the way she encourages us to shoot better is just stop playing these child games with a pistol, gives her a shotgun and say, oh, the Terminator just killed your family and stands right before you. What are you gonna do? And then she shoots all the targets. She hits all the targets perfectly well. So what we can take away about this movie is that if you really want revenge, you'll probably be a good marksman. Is that really what we want to teach kids today in America? Maybe not. Maybe not. So yeah, a serviceable character, but nothing more. We have then the Rev 9, as I said, he's practically just a face, although he does change different forms, so I'm not sure we should really talk about him in all the roles, or him just as the Rev 9. He's more just CGI. It does a bit the same problem as some of the other Terminator movies, where we have a robot that's cracking jokes, that's making puns and cracking jokes. I understand if it's a part of the infiltration, but this film does not work with this as an infiltration aspect. It actually seems like that he has emotions like the Terminator in Terminator 3. They smirk a bit. This guy at least doesn't smirk, but he cracks jokes. I do not like that. I think it should get out of my movie. Do not give these Terminator models subtly emotions. Like, it doesn't really befit them, which we'll talk about a bit later, because it actually might befit one model. Then we have Linda Hamilton. Yes, she's back as Sarah Connor. It's sort of a natural progression from the character we see in Terminator 2. She's this outlaw, and now she's dealing with grief. At least in Terminator 2, she still had her son, even if she was estranged from him. But now she has absolutely nothing to live for, only to destroy Terminator units. It's still her role to destroy Terminator models. Like, her life goal is still just to prevent Skynet from winning in the future, or even from Skynet from happening in the first place. She's kind of interesting about it. She keeps bragging.
Saved 3 billion lives. You're welcome.
She's supposed to be an annoying character, which I think she's endearing. She does earn being cool. She does earn the things she pulls off. She could maybe show more emotions. She's a bit too cool. We don't see any of her caring side. We don't see any empathy or anything. So I get why she would be such a bottomless pit of despair at this point. Her life sucks. But it would be nice if she was a bit more of an emotional journey in this film for us to experience a deeper level of her character. I was looking forward to seeing her back because I do love my Linda Hamilton. She's okay in this film. I sadly cannot say she's great, but she's okay in this film. I really wish the writing was better. Final character, and this is where we get into spoilers, is Arnold Schwarzenegger, who's back as the T-800 or Carl. This is the same T-800 model who killed John Connor at the beginning of the movie, and it turns out that he has lived the rest of his life sort of as a dad. Shortly after killing John Connor, he comes across a desperate woman who really needs his help. Like, her husband is very abusive and she has this son that she needs to take care of. By helping the woman, by saving her, he realizes what he took from Sarah Connor in killing John Connor. So he starts feeling remorse, starts establishing a sense of humanity, started a family life with this woman and her son. Since the second film, it has been a big question whether or not the machine could learn to love, if it could learn to have emotions, if it only mimicked humans as a method of being an infiltrator or being a better protector, or if it actually understood humanity on a deeper level and learned empathy or other emotions. So it makes sense that the film would develop on it, especially to give you an excuse why you would have an old Arnold Schwarzenegger in the film. Okay, let's say with all the other issues out of the way, with all the plot holes out of the way, I can accept them doing this with his character because it's something sort of new. It's sort of stupid. It's really stupid. The execution of it is quite bad, but it also makes sense in a way. It makes sense why they would want to do this. With that being said, let's move into the cinematography and then to the writing, where I'll get heavily into spoiler territory. So the sound design is quite fine. I don't really have anything to add to it. It's very complimentary to the film. There's nothing bad to say about the sound design. So that's already one thumbs up. The image composition and everything. I think there's a lot of really, really good shots in the film. There are a lot of intriguing ideas about the film. But then we move into the effects. And this is where it gets very complex. Some effects are amazing. Some visual ideas are really good. Some is absolute dog shit. For example, let's start with the beginning, with the deepfake. We have a young John Connor in scenes that of course were not filmed for the first film. We have a young Sarah Connor, and we have a young Arnold Schwarzenegger. None of them really get into uncanny valley territory. Maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger does a bit. I think there's something about Sarah Connor's hair, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's not CGI at all. I would say the scene works quite well. It's very short. I was not really taken out of my seat at that point. I was hoping that the rest of the film would have equally good CGI. Some of the parts it does, some of the parts it doesn't. As mentioned earlier, the film is completely packed with action scenes, and there might be too many of them because none of them really stood out to me. There is one scene I do remember better than the others, and that's at the very end when they're fighting the Rev 9. They are cutting him into pieces with this chain, and it looks quite good. It's very obviously CGI, but a lot of the fighting scenes, while in their human form or semi-human form, and they're being torn apart, showing robot skin underneath and everything, most of those scenes looked really good. I think with Arnold Schwarzenegger, it looks shittier than with the other models, but the other ones look quite nice when their face starts coming off and then it reassembles. Oh yeah, the face comes off in this film. The face, it comes off.
I'd like to take his face off.
It's been a while since I could say that. The face comes off.
The face
It actually comes off in the mini scenes, and it looks very good in this film when that happens. There are some really good visual spectacles. The Rev 9 model is very interesting. He's this black exoskeleton that can actually sort of create two versions of himself, one that's exoskeleton and one that's more like this liquid metal, that are both equally deadly and that are attacking in different ways. And it's really cool how it works, and just he's climbing around and he's killing, and he's just a really brutal murder machine, and he seems really unstoppable. A lot of the way this character works are great, so I do like how that works. I do like how the Rev 9 is just a really, really scary machine. It looks scary, and it's just destroying things in scenes, and looks good when it's destroying things. Mostly in the human form. He climbs and pounces and runs on all fours like an animal. And it should look good. It should look scary, but it's CGI. And this is where the film is so packed with CGI that so much of it looks like shit. There are scenes where he jumps out of the water and starts climbing up a pillar. It looks so fake. There are scenes with cars falling off a bridge or falling off a dam. It looks so fake. There are scenes with explosions and things being destroyed, and it looks so fake. There are so many bad CGI scenes in this movie, and there's just so much CGI. The first scene we have with Mackenzie Davis, because she is this augmented human, she fights faster than the humans. So even that scene feels fake. We are having a human body fighting people. Her entire body looks fake. This is a really good example of why CGI can be detrimental to a movie. It provides some of the best scenes in the film. Well, it provides all the best scenes in the film. A lot of it has to do with the CGI that you use, but it also really makes it difficult to love the movie because a lot of it looks like shit. The film is quite pseudo-political, like really dumb way political, because this film, of course, was made in 2019. Jesus Christ, this movie hates the border guard. We just see them torn to shreds, and we're supposed to like it. Even Mackenzie Davis smacks them up. Like, who the fuck likes border guards? The Border Patrol just gets their ass beaten in this movie. That's sort of a political statement, because like even in the other movies, they're not supposed to kill the police, like the police are sacred. This movie just fuck border guards. I mean, saying that as a political statement, it sort of is, but it's like the lowest common denominator of politics. And on the same level, there's one point where there's this line in the film.
I'm going to the police. You do that, it'll find you. You put 100 cops between you and a Terminator, you'll get 100 dead cops.
I'm not gonna say anything, but I think you know what I'm thinking. It's worth a try, isn't it? It's worth a try. It's worth a try. And also the writing about Linda Hamilton, understand why her character's written this way. But that's basically what I can say about the writing before getting to spoiler territory. There's so much left unsaid in this movie. There's so much about the writing about this movie that's bad because it's not there. So many things that are not explained away. And we can look at Arnold Schwarzenegger's character Carl as an example. Why did he decide to save this woman? One thing I did not touch on because I wanted to save that for the spoiler. It's no longer Skynet they're fighting. They destroyed Skynet. Now they're fighting Legion. So that explains why the future looks a bit different. But what the movie never tells you is what is Legion. And I can critique it here, but if we are being fair, the first film does describe where Skynet came from, but let's argue that there would be another movie after Dark Fate that, like Terminator 2, they go to destroy Cyberdyne that becomes Skynet. If they had planned a second film for Dark Fate where they would explain that away, that wouldn't be acceptable. I can accept not understanding Legion. And how this future war unfolds also doesn't make too much sense. A lot of it can be maybe that we're given an unreliable narrator, since it's Mackenzie Davis and she's seen as a child when the future war starts. We also see her as a child at the end of the film, so it means that the film, actually, according to the film's lore, the future war starts pretty much immediately when this movie ends, and they're not gonna really prevent it, I guess, because nothing is done in this movie to prevent the future war from happening, so it's gonna happen. And how it's explained is that everything goes dark on the same second across the globe. Everything stops working when Legion flicks the switch. We see Mackenzie Davis standing in the road where all the cars have stopped working. We see planes falling out of the skies. Then on day 2, the governments try to destroy it by firing EMP nukes at it, and it doesn't work. And then by day 3, the whole world is at war. With whom? There's so much here that's not explained. So one thing is, if Legion can shut down everything in the world, if Legion can make everything stop working, how can they fire nukes? Like, do they have any backup generators? But backup generators are also technological. Shouldn't they be affected the same way as planes and cars are affected? How can some things be shut off but not other things? I don't have a degree in this, but it doesn't really make sense how they can turn off everything across the entire globe at the same time, yet humanity can still go to war. How can humanity go to war? What is driving? Are they using tanks? I mean, yeah, infantry, but in what way, and how are they fighting Legion? Are they fighting each other? It doesn't even explain that. It doesn't explain if humanity is fighting each other or fighting Legion. But what we see are burnt out cities. It looks like everything was nuked or carpet bombed. This is the worst explained future war we've had so far. I mean, even Terminator Salvation was better than this. That tells you how crap this is. So bottom line about the writing in this film, there are a lot of plot holes and potential plot holes that are easily explained away, and the movie actually does it quite well, I would say. Then there are a lot of plot holes that don't really matter that much. And then there are plot holes you could ignore, like what is Legion? We don't know what Legion is, but maybe it will be explained in a different movie, or maybe we don't need to know it, what it is to enjoy it. But there are all the other plot holes surrounding it, all the other aspects of the bad writing surrounding it that mean that these plot holes are sort of unforgivable. Like, there's so much about this movie that doesn't work. And I could wrap it up here, but I do quickly want to compare it to Terminator 2, because one thing I realized watching this film is that every single film, with the exception of Terminator Salvation, has just tried remaking Terminator 2 Judgment Day. All the movies try to do the same story beats, the same action scenes. All of them have these big chases, incarceration scene that they in one way or another want to deal with. All of them tries to up the ante with models that are more intriguing, like the T-1000 not really being interested in just the T-800 anymore, which is a reason I understand. But all of them are just trying to create these action road movies with a lot of special effects. Again, Terminator 2 is famous for how excellent the CGI was in that film, but it's also known for having really good practical effects. And with all the later movies, you just don't get as many practical effects and you get CGI, and you also just get more. How many good action set pieces are there in Terminator 2 Judgment Day? There's the big chase 40 minutes into the film. There's a big shootout at Cyberdyne, and then there's of course the final chase scene that results in the climax of the film. I did leave out the hospital war scene. I would not say that's a major action set piece. I would say that's probably the best action scene in that film. But that's also what I can contrast between the other movies, because the other movies hide more and more and more and more in Terminator 2, where there are fewer people who are trying to fight to get away. It's a much more contained, much more low budget scene, and it's so much more effective for it. This film is full of spectacle. The other movies are full of spectacle, and that's just too much spectacle. This is a really dumb movie. It's a really dumb dude bro movie that you can sit and watch and have a good time while watching. I don't think I've ever want to rewatch this movie despite actually sort of liking it and despite actually being able to recommend it. It is because all these other movies are just trying to do this action spectacle. More CGI, more action, more explosions, more weird robot models. Sometimes it's great, but it's very, very difficult to do better than Terminator 2. That film is already perfect, and the reason why it's so perfect is also because of the characters. It's because of the time we take to get to know these characters. A lot of these character building scenes in Terminator 2 is what makes it so great, and the other movies sort of forget that. They do try to have character development, but the actors or script is not as good. We just do not get the same performances. We do not get the same immersion in the characters. Another problem is, of course, also they had to reuse all the characters, and they had to try and redo all the lines. They had to do the "come with me if you want to live." The cliches that create the sequels also fail at mimicking the magic of the original. Again, they're also time travel movies, so we had the problem in Genesis where they had to recast everyone, or in Terminator 3 where they had to recast John Connor, which was more about drug addiction, but still, there's a reason why all of them fail, even if they sort of succeed. That's where I will leave the comparison, and that's where I will leave the review. So the writing is not really good, performances are not really good, a lot of the CGI is not really good, but I had fun. I had fun watching this because this is a dumb movie. It's a dumb action movie with good scenes sometimes frustrating scenes, but most of the scenes are entertaining enough. There's so much chaos, there's so many explosions, there's so much action. That's actually why when I watched it, I didn't even realize how dumb it was. It's only when I talk about it that I realize how dumb it is. I wrote some of the things down. It's so full of spectacle that you shut off your mind. It's the perfect stupid movie in a way. And I don't think a good Terminator movie should be a stupid movie, but here we are. Terminator Dark Fate, the last film we have so far in the Terminator franchise, is a very dumb, entertaining movie. And I therefore can't give it a high recommendation, even though I don't love the movie, even though I have a lot of bad things to say about it. But the dumb fun you can get from this movie is enough to make it recommendable. And not only can I recommend it, I can say with absolute certainty that it's the most entertaining film since Terminator 2. That's what I had to say about Terminator Dark Fate. We're almost done with the Terminator franchise. There's still Terminator Resistance, the video game that I'm covering, that I already filmed and edited, so it will come out soon after this video comes out. Then I will be covering the Sarah Connor Chronicles. That will take me some time. I honestly don't have too much time editing my videos these days or filming them or anything, so it will come out maybe in 3 or 4 months. I don't know when. So stay tuned. If you want to see what else I'm doing these days, I'm mostly just doing the Terminator videos till I'm done with them. At this point, yeah, I want to be done with them and talk about something else, but I'm a completionist. I want to finish the Terminator franchise, and I'm almost done here. I will be doing some short reviews as well, and I might be putting something else up, but right now I'm just focusing, eye on the ball, eye on the ball, eye on the Terminator ball, and just get it done. So you can subscribe, you can hit the bell button if you want, because probably you're not going to see my videos otherwise. That's just the case. And I had so many bad things to say about this film, so I am curious in the comments if you share my feelings about the movie, or actually I'm more curious if a lot of the things I criticize it for I'm wrong. I'm always curious to know if I'm wrong because I don't want to dislike something for being stupid. I want to be right about why something is bad, and I don't want to be wrong about it. Sometimes I am. Sometimes it's simply an opinion. There's no right or wrong. But I think with a lot of the things I said in this review, I could actually be wrong, factually wrong. But that's it. Thank you for watching. Have a good time, and I'll be back.